watching the captain.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dojo. I am your captain. It is Captain Diesel here, and I am joined with a very special guest. A guy that has been around for a little bit, and a guy that I've watched a while. Well, I don't know. I've watched you. I'm not going to say I grew up, because I did this when I talked to Roxy before. I'm not going to say I grew up on you, because it make me sound like I'm hella young and you're hella old. But I went through high school and stuff watching you guys on All Death, and felt a kinship to you, my brother, as a big nerd brother myself with the glasses and all that good stuff. So again, you've been dope. I've been following you for a minute now. So when I saw I got the follow from Will Pharaoh, I was like, oh shit, this is crazy. Let me go ahead and hit my boy up to see if he wants to come on. So again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you having me, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah. For the people who aren't aware of who you are, what you do you want to give people kind of a quick summarization of yourself?
Just the Pharaoh. I'll be out here. No. But yeah, Will Pharaoh, of course. If you've seen me on All Death, creator of All Death Cannabis, also All Death Gaming, as well as the arcade tokens, and now moving into, of course, straight of a comic book that I have on my YouTube as well. So, content creator, producer, graphic designer, musician, actor, just all the asterisks, and they're everywhere to be able to be proven.
So I wanna cut through the small talk, my guy, because I've been watching a good bit of your podcast, trying to get up to date on everything. And I think you guys had a conversation very recently that I wanted to kind of pick your brain about in regards to your favorite live action version of the Batman. We gotta talk about this. We gotta talk about this because it seems like you got smoked from my boy Pattinson. So first off, can you give me like a little bit of a discussion on who your favorite is for people that haven't seen that episode, and for people curious, I'll be linking that in the description of this video below when I put it out. Tell them your favorite Batman and why. Then we can get into some other conversation.
My favorite Batman is Ben Affleck's Batman because he was the most comic book accurate Batman.
Really?
All of them. Now listen, this and I know people will try to say this and use this as an excuse, especially for my friend Clayton Thomas. AKA CT is dope.
Mm-hmm.
He says I can't give him the number one Batman because he never had a solo film. And I think that's what makes him even more doper, that he didn't get a solo film and did better than the ones that had solo films.
So for me, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, never in my life have I been scared of Batman, like ever. But we know when we see him fight crime and stuff, like, this guy's a terror. It was not till I saw Ben Affleck's Batman where I was like, yo, this dude is scary as F. Seeing him on the corner, just hanging like this, and then went up the road, like, oh, that's Batman. That's Batman right there.
See, I was scared of him, but for all the wrong reasons. Batman in the comic books has one thing that distinguishes him and makes him somewhat crazy. He will sacrifice people, loved ones' lives, and his duty, all for the purpose of not killing anybody. So you showed me a Batman to where not only is he killing people by blowing them up with a tank, he's branding them so that they'll be marked to be murdered in prison. But in the future instances, he legit is like, because in the comics he has that issue with guns, but he's legit up in the musket tool on people in the future version of it. So I'm just like, a Batman who's legit outright murdering people with no care. I'm like, it's not the most comic accurate. Again, he's cool. I put him in like the Thomas Wayne category for me. But I can't call him the best for me. It's the one rule. It's one rule.
But see, here's why I put him as the best, and I do put him comic accurate. And it's kind of like hypocritical because he's comic accurate, but not comic accurate. And the way I say that is the fact of that is what you would see in a superhero who's been in the game as long as him. Because remember, this is a seasoned Batman. Right. This Batman then lost a whole bunch of people. He done got Robin's whole suit with the bullet wounds and everything in there just sitting up there. And then when you start to see all of this struggle and you start to sit with the question of, this would have never happened if I'd have just offed this guy. The world would be safer if I would have just offed this guy. Now, I know everybody can say, oh, but you don't kill because you're a hero. but you're still a criminal. You're a vigilante. You're a criminal fighting criminals. So really, you just a high-paid snitch.
Pretty much.
If we being honest,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So it's like when we start to think about it, it's like, why are we holding this morale for someone who's already a criminal? It's like, oh, but he's not a criminal because he doesn't kill. Well, there are a few villains that don't kill either. They just do messed up stuff like rob banks and everything. Captain Boomerang don't really kill nobody. He just be beating people up.
So that opens the door for another question. Now we will get back into the Batman stuff. I want to take a little detour with this question because I've had this not really a debate. It's more so of a kind of a nonsensical question, but it's kind of looking at the effectiveness of characters like the Punisher, mostly him. I want to lock in on him, for instance. A character who has villains don't really have much of a rogues gallery because when he has them, he kills them. So he offs any villain he has. How effective realistically do you think that would be? And I say that because one of the issues that Batman has had is, and some versions of him has discussed this in regards to his existence in just existing creates more opposition. The stronger you get and the more you stop villains, the stronger the villains have to become to stop you so they can continue on. You see it with him, you see it with characters like Goku from Dragon Ball. The stronger the heroes are, there has to be more and more villains. So when you have somebody like Punisher who is ruthlessly killing people, now crime's still going to exist because you're not solving the root of the issue, which is people niggas are broke. People want to eat. People need to rob shit so they can survive. So there's always going to be more criminals, but now the criminals are getting bigger, badder, and stronger because you're so strong. Do you think there is any reason, like, do you feel like that's a right, not really right thing to do? I'm not going to question your morals and ethics here, but from like the superhero side, like if these things were based in reality, how effective do you feel like that approach would be though, as far as just killing off the villains?
It becomes slightly effective, but I think it also has an expiration date on it because I think, and what's funny is we are talking about Batman, which is a quote that they say in The Dark Knight: you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So even someone like Punisher, like, yeah, you're killing all of these folks and that's great, but then what happens when now you're the person they need to take out? What happens when you decide that you now don't have that line that everyone agrees with? So it's like, yeah, they're cool that you took out this rapist, but what happens when you take out this burglar that was just trying to feed his 2 kids and now they're orphans and have nowhere to go? So it's like it has its ups and downs to it, but I think something that it was a quote that Vision said, and I think it was in Civil War. Or I think so. It was like, challenge incites conflict and conflict breeds catastrophe. And so because Batman causes a conflict with villains, causes a challenge to these villains, the conflict will always rise. Like you said, the more you try to defeat these people and the stronger you get, the more it comes. And we've seen that with Batman. When Batman got a hold of the Lantern Rings, what was it to do? To fight Darkseid. A regular dude wants to go up against Darkseid and was putting hands on Darkseid. Like, bro, we went from you fighting a dude with clown makeup to you fighting Darkseid? Yeah, it's a lot.
It's funny because he does that thing that America does where it's like, we're going to Cold War you. We're going to take the Cold War approach. I'm going to show you that I have the biggest guns. I'm the strongest thing out there so that you don't even want to think about opposing me because I'll decimate you. Which in some versions of like with the street level criminals, sometimes they'll just like, it's one of the things that I loved about the Matt Reeves Batman is that they showcase like his threat of just existing. For the lower level criminals are like, yeah, I see a shadow or I see a dark alley. Mm-hmm. I ain't gonna really do nothing crazy because he may be down there for real. So for them, it wards off like the purse snatchers and the lower tier criminals. But then you're gonna deal with a criminal like a Bane who's like, well, hey, nigga, or a Kraven the Hunter from Spider-Man, where I'm gonna look at that as a challenge. I'm gonna test you. It's almost like when you have that gangster rapper talking about I'm this, that, or the third. Well, somebody gonna test your gangster at some point.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So what's the beef with Robert Pattinson Batman? What did you not enjoy about the Matt Reeves Batman?
Oh no, I love Matt Reeves Batman. The person I got a conflict with is Christian Bale. That's the one I don't like.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
So
I like Matt Reeves.
I've talked about this with my friends before because we were like discussing. I think we did it when I hit 1,000 subs. We were talking about it. Personally, for me, I think the best Bruce Wayne on screen was Christian Bale. When you look at the animated series of how he's supposed to be this like rich douchebag guy and da da da, my buddy pulled up in a Lambo with the two girls sitting on each other, falling all in the pool and shit and being an ass. I'm like, that's Bruce Wayne. That's the perfect version. Like, I would not expect that guy to be a hero.
Yeah, I get yeah.
Now, Batman, I can understand some of the pushback.
He's right here. Christian Bale is not a tall man. I shouldn't be looking down on Batman going, where is he? I don't know, bro. Like, can you back up a little bit? Like, you in my chest trying to threaten me. And can you go untie my friends that you just surprised with your little batarang and got them tied up? Like, I don't know.
Fake voice.
Yeah, like, and why are you talking like that? Like,
has he ever talked about, because the first movie he didn't have that voice. Batman Begins, he was talking regular.
Well, it was because that it was for the protection thing. So it was the fact of Ra's al Ghul knew who he was, and that's what he felt like, oh, because of this, that may be why they caught on. So they wanted it to be more realistic as far as setting it in the real world. So I believe like Christopher Nolan wanted it to be a little bit more like, if we're doing a superhero movie that's very realistic, we don't want to follow the things of like a Superman where it's like, oh, you Superman, and it's just this, and it's like,
right.
You know, in the words of Tony Baker, I never do. Like, really? Y'all can't tell that this average looking dude got the same facial structure, the same hair as
I think
Superman?
The only reason that doesn't work is because these niggas are a very particular like ninja organization and train and do things in a certain way. The one outside dude you brought in to train that like burned down your whole like base is from Gotham. You recruited him from Gotham. You said you've been watching Gotham for a long time. So when a nigga in a bat suit is beating people the fuck up and it's like a shadow in Gotham, it's gotta be him because he's the only one rogue. So I'm just like hiding his identity, because even then he did all that with his voice, and then they still pulled up to his mansion like was good.
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, the voice is so, because he didn't really even do the voice. I don't think he did the voice in the first one. I don't think he did the voice till The Dark Knight.
He didn't do it as dramatic as he did in Dark Knight. Like, it was there in Batman Begins a little bit, but it wasn't as deep, and it got real raspy in the second one. It was like, somebody has to find out where he is. And I'm like, well, you sound like you've been smoking cigarettes. You didn't sound like this on the first one.
For the most part, it was just the height thing for you?
Yeah, it's the height. It's the height. I don't like, look, my Batman is supposed to be menacing and terrifying. To my chest, it does not scare me.
How are we feeling about Bane then?
You know what? For the version that they gave Bane, that's what I didn't mind. Because Bane is so, because you gotta think about it, bro. Bane is so far off from the Bane that we know. We know that wasn't Bane. But then also too, in that spirit of, I like what they gave us with kind of that middle, because like even in the comic books, like before we get the big dude, like there's some comic books where like Bane fights Batman before he gets Venom.
Right.
And so that was the one thing that Bane always had that he couldn't defeat Batman with, was the physical prowess. He wasn't strong enough. But then he started to get like that, and then, but of course, Batman would best him, and then it wasn't until he was like, oh, okay, now I got something that's going to really get me up there to take him out. So it was like, okay, if we're going off that logic, this is kind of like middle Bane. This is like Bane that's just like, oh, in the darkness, and we're here. And it's like, okay, and now you got the muscle. You still got your ass whooped, though. So had he not died, this would have been the perfect, if, Christopher Nolan would have kept going, I could have seen like that next Batman where Bane could have been introduced into finding that venom toxin and swelling up.
I hated it, bro. I hated him with a burning
Why,
passion.
though?
So first off, for the same reason you like had issues with Bale, I had issues with Hardy. I think Hardy's even shorter than Bale. And he like 5'6".
Yes, he is the perfect Wolverine. He is the perfect Wolverine.
Short as hell. Secondly, I've discussed this a couple times on the channel, but when it comes to race swapping characters, I don't have an issue if the character's origin story isn't founded in their ethnic background. So like Black Panther is an African king. Him being Caucasian just doesn't make sense.
Nah.
Bane's whole backstory was like him growing up in a Mexican prison on serving for his father's sentence and having to like grind it out there. So I'm like, cool. You just like race swapped him to make it fit something, which I mean, granted, you changed where his ethnic background was, so I get that.
And the prison was different. So,
right.
The prison was in a different spot, to be fair.
And secondly, I hate the mask. I hate the mask so much. Granted, I understand that you can't just throw a Rey Mysterio mask on Buddy and make it look good. But you could have had some kind of tactical mask that wasn't just like the face hugger on his face that looked kind of...
Honestly, you could have had that, but then the back part has something here.
Yeah,
so it's like, it could have still been a regular mask where it's like covered, but like this part right here, you know, where you won't really see the nose, just the mouth.
Right.
This part could have had like something where it's a tube where he's breathing, but it comes from right here and then behind his back. Or something.
They had this fat ass like Radio Shack like trucker responder on his... I'm like, bro, there's no way. There's no way. Last thing too, him being a patsy. If there's anything I love about Bane, and just like one thing core to his character, is that he got it out the mud and he built it up on his own. So when you give me a character like that and you make his entire motivation of him being in love with Talia, essentially, just to be mad at Bruce because Bruce is clapping Talia, and then Talia kills you, and you're all just a patsy of race. I'm like, the Bane I knew in the comics when he pulled up on Batman, buddy, hey, I'm a mercenary, I'm breaking your back, and I'm doing this, I'm running this shit.
Yeah, I didn't like how they swapped his story out and they gave it to her. Like, in a sense, like her being in the prison, her doing that stuff, and then kind of like finally it's like, yo, Talia never went through that. Like, what you could have easily wrote in was like, yo, Talia's pissed about like her father putting her mother down there, and then I'm finna come back and take this shit because this dude protected me. Not like he didn't got beat up, so now that's why he gotta wear this man. It was like there was too many changes to that wasn't necessary for you to introduce Bane. You could have just introduced Bane as a mercenary. And then the pit got introduced when he sent Batman there.
Yeah, they didn't need to involve the League of Shadows anymore at that point either. That's my thing. Another thing with me, I'm like, Talia wasn't needed for the story. This could have just been a Bane movie or just a Talia movie.
Yeah,
because you didn't have it with the Joker, and that was an amazing movie. You didn't have to tie that back around, but you just felt like you needed to.
Well, I think too, though, from what I know, and again, I could be wrong, but I know that they had to make a sharp pivot because 3 was supposed to include the Joker, but unfortunately Heath Ledger had passed. Yeah, it was still supposed to include him, so it was supposed to be a continuation of that, and then Bane would be introduced as well. And so it's supposed to be like a civil war between Joker and Bane.
That could have been hard. That would have been hard as hell.
Yeah. And so
I would have liked that better. I'm not gonna lie to you.
And so instead they replaced Joker with Talia.
In better news, because you brought up because you said your favorite Batman was Affleck, which I can understand. He was dope. I'm gonna lie, he was dope as fuck to see on the screen. After thought, and a lot of thought, I'm not gonna lie, Pattinson may be my favorite Batman now. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you. And hear me out. Hear me out. If there's anything that Batman is before anything else, he is the world's greatest detective. He's supposed to solve fucking crimes. He's on some Sherlock Holmes shit. I can't say there is any other Batman to ever appear on screen that actually solved a mystery. Like, Bale kind of did something, but this Batman was the only one to like, okay, I'm going to pull up at the crime scene. Ooh, residue. Ooh, weapon. All right, cool, puzzle, riddle. I'm going to figure this shit out. And he showed off his brain. Granted, the combat is the combat. It's hard to have a fluid fighting scene in that suit. Because all the Batman we see up to this point are kind of like chinky with the shit.
But I think that's the more realistic of it from what you're even saying with that. Because it's like the way Batman be fighting people don't be so realistic. Like the way he be kicking folks, like, bro, you kick that dude in the knee like you did, they're not getting back up like that. Right. We know that ain't the case.
You
But
6'4" with Kevlar armor on, doing acrobatic backflips and shit at 200 something pounds.
that's why I never believed he wasn't killing nobody. That's why people like, Batman don't kill. I'm like, okay, I know somebody he done thrown off a building, wrapped them up, then hit their head, and then ain't made it when they went to the hospital. Batman got some bodies on him. Y'all can say what y'all want.
I played the Arkham games. I've seen him smack a dude full force with a bat to knock him out. Like,
man, I've seen him drive a dude's head into the ground and his
full
body's force. Yeah, like, bro, that dude's dead. He is
dude
not
roll the tank tire over a dude's head for information. Yeah, Arkham Batman was on some shit.
Yeah, then hit somebody with the Batmobile. Like, come on, bro. Like, don't y'all can't convince me this man ain't killing people. But it's got
a taser in the tank, though.
Yeah, but I see why you like Robert Pattinson's, because all the elements set up. Like, now mind you, I'm not a fan of his Bruce Wayne, but I understand his Bruce Wayne because we're in year 2 of Batman.
Yeah, if we get in the second movie, if he's a socialite and he's more of what we expect, which I think Pattinson can do, like he's the pretty boy. Like if he can't do nothing else, he can act like a pretty boy on screen. If he can do that, that locks it in for me. If we get more of like the dark, broody, I'm gonna be mad at the world. I hate you, Dad. Almost like with the Cape Crusader, how he was just like, I hate Alfred or Pennyworth. I hate Pennyworth.
Yeah, that whole I'm not your, you're not my dad. I'm like, okay, dude, you're grown. Like, he know that, you know that. Like, ain't all that necessary. But I think that'd be good for the second Batman if we get to see him advance as Bruce Wayne. So not as like, again, it can still be the detective mystery thing, but in order for you to really figure this out, you're going to have to master being Bruce Wayne in order to find out what's really going on. So
I think that's the only thing holding him back. I think it's the only thing holding him back as a Batman, because he fits all the other stuff to me. The combat can be worked on a little bit.
But for a year two though, that's not bad.
Yeah, he hasn't been trained. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not like this is a seasoned Batman that's been doing this for like 8 years. So it's like where they set all the elements, he fits in perfectly. Like the awkwardness, even the stuff with Catwoman. Like you're not a womanizer just yet because you haven't thought about what Bruce Wayne needs to be. And so right now, all of your anger is focused into this. Like you don't want to think about nothing. And then also too, I still feel like I didn't know how old he was in the Batman, but I'm like, you can also tell like, okay, you haven't been to the League of Shadows yet. We can also see like, yo, you don't really get a lot of therapy. You're a recluse. So it was like, I enjoyed how he played Batman, and I enjoyed that it wasn't so over the top. It was like, yo, we're actually seeing this guy use detective skills, which I thought Riddler was the perfect first villain for him to go through. So we know, okay, this is a detective movie that we're watching that Batman is a part of.
Honestly, I would love for the second one. I know they're not doing it. I wish they would do it. The Joker stuff kind of made me sad. I wish they'd use Calendar Man for the second one. I think you can keep a lot of the same murder stuff, or Calendar Man, Mad Hatter, like any of the like street level villains. Hell, even if you want to use Hush or with Clayface, I think you had the same thing that I kind of thought about as far as like him just changing his face around, like just combine Hush and Clayface into one person. Like keep it really street level, almost on some Nolan type stuff, and keep it dark, gritty, keep it a mystery. Because I don't think we get that many that much detective work from Batman in live action stuff. It's mostly like either Justice League level stuff, or he's just like full fledged blah 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 blowing up the city.
It's always a real massively big plan. Like even though like Riddler's plan was big, it was still kind of basic. It was like, oh, okay, dude, he blew the levees up. So it's like, okay, this was a great, I don't want to call him low tier, but this is a great like realistic, not over the top villainy type of plan, and I liked it. And I think you can be able to still do that. I even still think you could do something like that with the Joker and everything. I just don't think the Joker. Yeah. I think the Joker still came too soon for me.
They will not let him go, bro. Even in the Cape Crusader, I was like, oh, that was a great show. We still gonna sneak Joker in at the end. I'm like, why? Why are we doing this?
It's because they're supposed to be yin and yang. So it's like, again, I get it. But even like for the Batman, like I like that you're not going into the regular big folks. Like you started with Riddler. We see Penguin, and I'm like, yo, you never see Penguin in this light. it's always him, always at the top already, iceberg lounge. And again, too, you don't really see too many of his plans and what he's doing.
Did you see Gotham? Did you watch that show?
I love Gotham.
Yeah,
I don't
man.
care nobody say Gotham. I know it got weird at the end.
Right.
I enjoyed Gotham because it showed the proof that Batman is not always necessary. Because the city is also a villain. And they don't, and it's like if you can harp on that and show the different perspective from people, because remember, we always see the poor and the rich. Where's the middle class? You have so much story you could tell in that city that is missing, and I think being able to tell it from these villains like the Penguin, which I can't wait to watch when it drops.
I think it dropped already, didn't it?
No,
didn't it come out yesterday?
It's supposed to come out today, and it'll come out till 9 o'clock.
Damn, so we got, well, for you, 9 o'clock yours on?
Yeah.
Oh, damn, so we got like 3 more hours, damn.
Yeah, I'm like, this ain't cable. Why y'all doing this to us?
Dropping it so late, too. I'm like, y'all dropping these shows like late. I get you want to wait for people to get off of work, but 9 o'clock is kind of like,
yeah, that was wild, because like even 6 p.m., like how Disney Plus does it, like the new like Agatha show drops. So now it always comes out Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, all right, man, I get it, but I'm just like, yo, why y'all can't drop this at midnight? Like,
right.
This is streaming, not cable.
Because you don't need the congruent viewers. So I don't know why they're so locked in on dropping it at a specific time.
I think so. You get everybody anticipated with it, so it gives everyone a chance to watch it, and then too, you avoid people spoiling it before someone can see it.
That is true. Because
if I seen it at 12 o'clock, and if I was that type of person, I'd be already talking about it. I'm already just like, yo, man, this would happen. Yo, this is this and that, before people have even gotten a chance to wake up to see it.
I think you're a content creator. You got to get them videos out. Well, depending on the people that make that kind of content.
Yeah, that kind of. I'm not that person. I don't like spoiling it for fun.
It's tiring, bro. It's tiring, dog.
It is.
Trying to do that stuff. I think I did that with them for the second season. Like I watched the whole show as soon as it dropped, and then got the video up. And I'm like, video did well. I was happy with it, but I will never do that shit again. That was 8 hours like straight. I just binged. It's
difficult to do when you do your own show, like how you're doing it, and it's like. I think that's something that I had to learn with doing like all of the stuff that I do, especially now with starting the comic book. I always sit here and kind of like, overthink, get in my head about, man, I should be making these same videos where they got the little green screen and the picture behind them, and I'm just the talking head and stuff. But it's like, I'm like, man, I just don't be having time to do that stuff. And then I remember like, yo, most of these people don't have a full-fledged show that they put out. That's all that they're doing as far as like for Instagram and putting on the YouTube. That's their content. They don't have a full-fledged show like yourself or like me that comes out each week that you gotta get guests, you gotta record it, you gotta edit it through again, and then you gotta make sure it come out, and you gotta make clips for that so people can go check it out on your YouTube.
Plus, I got teams, man. The benefit of having a team, maybe if it's not like a legit team that works with you, or if you like outsourcing the editors or whatnot. Having that stuff makes content creation not easy, but a lot easier. And like, cause I was editing my own stuff, cause I'm still writing my own script for the most part. I do some of the smaller edits for stuff not crazy intensive like comic book stuff, but I've started to like reach out to other editors for stuff, and I'm like, damn, my life's easier. You tell me all I gotta do is write this, record it, I can send it off with like the assets and get it done, versus me recording, writing, and then sitting down for 7 to 8 hours editing this thing. To be dead tired of releasing this thing. Then I make the thumbnail. It's a lot. Yeah. But that's another question I have for you in regards to content. Like, what made you want to get into content creation in general? I know you were working with All Def, but I didn't know if that was like, if you want to do like TV radio host or something like that, like what your original ideas were, but what got you into content?
I was doing content before I got with All Def. I think I started doing content like 2015, just shooting on my iPhone with some friends in Sacramento. But prior to that, I think it was like maybe 4 months prior to me starting to shoot that, I was going to do acting, because a lot of folks don't know, like I used to do theater like from like the beginning of middle school all the way to like high school. So like I'm theatrically trained as well. I was doing auditions in North California, and I had this audition in like San Francisco. and it was like an open audition. They weren't giving out like the details of who it was, but it was like a show for a major network that was coming out. And so I went and learning from like some of my friends, like there's certain windows that you go to when you want to get it. Like if they don't give it to you, wow, really? Not the consistent.
Hey, I barely hear it. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Bro,
I thought that was where I was. I was like, damn.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and I hate that because I'm just like, okay, I want to put it on mute, but I'm right in the middle of talking, and I'm just like, wow.
No, you good, man.
The consistent one though, not the no, it's the like really, really. One honk didn't get it. Like you gotta just keep going. Come on, bro. But I went to audition, and so like when you do acting, they'll tell you like particular times you should go. Like you can either do it like early in the morning if you're set and ready to go. Try to do it. Don't do it like prior to lunch, and then not too close to when it's over, just because of like how the people are doing with the casting folks. Like they may be ready to go, not paying attention. So you gotta find that sweet spot. And then for myself, I'm always someone that'll like when I do an audition, and if I'm close towards the end, like I was with this one, I'll try to find one of the casting people, get their information, just so I can pick their brain about stuff, or just any kind of advice within the future, just in case like I may not run into them or run into them down the line. So had the audition, did a great job, and it waited. One of the guys that were there walked out, came out. We were sitting there chatting. Funny thing that we that we had in common, we were talking about Marvel, and everything while we were walking, and he was walking to his car. And so, just asked him, I was like, hey man, do you have like any feedback for me as far as like my audition or anything like that? Not trying to say like who's what, just any feedback that I would need for when I come and do auditions and stuff. And he was like, nah man, you did great. Like you presented yourself well. You didn't seem nervous. You were also able to throw in ad libs. You were able to pivot when we threw stuff at you. You did a great job. I was like, okay, I appreciate that, man. Well, hopefully it does well enough to get y'all to take a look at me and stuff like that. And he said it would. He said, but you seem like a good guy. He was like, so I'm gonna be honest with you, just kind of give you something. So if you want a real piece of advice, and I said, okay. And that man told me some of the realest stuff I've heard from somebody in Hollywood. He was like, listen, as well as you did, Hollywood is not ready to hire a 6'3" black guy with dreadlocks as their running star for a show. And if you think about it, name me a show where you got a dude that's 6'3" dreadlocks. That's the star of a show.
Because it's usually like one of the things. It's like you're either John Majors and you're just big as hell, but you got the clean cut hair look, or maybe short. You got the dreads. Is he short?
Yes, Jonathan Majors is probably about here to me.
I don't know. Well, that's the way they shoot him. They make him always look like he's 6'3" or 6'2".
And so that's because of lower angles. So
right.
Because I've done production, so you start knowing. That's why I know how short Christian Bale is. So there's not too many people. So like Henry Cavill is my height.
Right. I know he's tall. I know, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but you can see it. So that's why it's like he'll have a regular angle where he's shot like this, but when he's with like lowers or something, you start to see the angles change a little bit different, or you see they're not in the same shot, or he has to have it where he's like this, she's up here, so they can come down with it and look at her, because they'll put her on an apple box, so her height kind of comes up a little bit more. And that was really one of the biggest things. Like when I learned about that, I was just like, dang. And so I thought about it, and just, like how the way Hollywood normally treats folks like ourselves. It's like, yo, you combine all of that. It's like, I'd rather just do my own thing. I'd rather just make my own content. Like I'm seeing people do it with Vine and YouTube, and just like being able to create my own stuff to where I have my own lane. And doing graphic design, you started seeing like all the different pictures of it, to where it's like, okay, do I necessarily need a movie theater or a movie studio to put this together? Because then you start thinking about it, it's like, okay, well, who pays for this? Brands. Brands pay for these movies. Not just the studio, brands. Like that's why you see Popeyes. That's why you see Apple. That's why you see all these in these movies, because they didn't pay to be in there. So I was just like, okay, then I should just get them to pay me for my stuff, make it, and then put it out on my own. And so that's how I started doing content.
So have you recorded like a short film, or like a legit, like a longer length featured longer feature, like a longer created, I guess, or longer running is the best word I'm looking for. Jesus Christ, longer running like project, or have you kept things more on the like YouTube video podcast hour long side of things?
No, I have. I've had a couple of things I've made that I've put out and stuff just to see where it goes. Doing that let me learn about timing. So what you think is old ain't old. Like, unless you made it to where it's like based off of something that happened during that time, it's what's called being evergreen. So it's like, I forgot. It was like this. It was this short film I made about this girl that was like an assassin for like a night. She had to take out like 3 people to get to like this final boss that she needed to take out after some stuff happened. And I shot that like years ago. And I was just like, oh man, it's too old. I need to do these reshoots or something like that. Like, we did that so long ago, and someone wanted to pick it up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's just like, what you think is old to you, that's fine. Make it, because 4 years down the line, you may have Netflix calling you saying, hey man, we want to pick up Black Blasphemy. We just saw it and we thought it was dope. It's like, man, I shot Black Blasphemy in like 4 years. Like, y'all just see, like, yeah, we just seeing it and we want to put $100 million into it for you to get to make this. What's up? It's like, okay.
And that's what I've noticed, especially with YouTube. YouTube is probably where I have the most knowledge of, just because I've consumed a lot of the content. I grew up on a platform. Usually, at least for me, the way it works is you find a random video because it's a cool thumbnail, whatever it may be, or it's within the realm of you looking up a certain thing. You like that video, you're like, damn, I kind of like this dude. Let me go find other videos by him. And there's a catalog of stuff, depending on how long that person's been on the platform, maybe like years worth of videos. So I'll end up binge watching that person's videos. And if those videos are evergreen, well, sometimes they're like reviews, or they're kind of set around a time period, but depending on how much you like that person by that point, you'll watch them. So yeah, that was just something I've always found interesting in regards to content creation, and like that balance of, okay, how do I go about making this thing evergreen to where it'll be relevant in 10 years versus that balance of, okay, I can talk about the state of the world or state of whatever the industry is at this moment in time for like a news type of thing.
Oh, I think doing even like what you're doing now, it's just that balance of it. Like, again, like you said, you don't want to be on that train of like having to do a review every time an episode drops. So it's like, you don't want to be that guy. But it's like, also too, you know, there's some things we can't avoid to talk about. Like, we can't avoid talking about when the Venom trailer dropped. So it's like, okay, so we at least got to have a discussion about it. But it's also finding a balance to where you can warp your question. So it's like, okay, we're talking about something because of Venom 3, but we're having a conversation that's evergreen. Like, we would talk about, like, say, for instance, we talk about Venom of, like, what could Knowles possibly, his connection be within the MCU later down the line.
And we can have to talk, we won't talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of pick your brain about you a little bit more. Kind of discuss you and your, not necessarily your upbringing per se, but if you want to get into it, you can. Just your journey into nerddom. Did you get introduced to like a cartoons, anime? What got you into the space of like, hey, maybe I don't identify as a nerd. I don't know what that is right now, but I like this nerdy shit.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I classify myself as a nerd.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And the only reason why I say that is I don't think I ingest enough to be considered one. And I'm not sure how that's taken, but it's like I watch a lot of stuff, but I don't necessarily know if it's considered to be like nerdy all the time. And I think maybe it's just pertaining to certain things. So, like, for instance, like anime, like I do not watch anime. Like,
that's surprising for me. I would have assumed you watched a lot of it. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't. I like, you want to talk about Dragon Ball Z? We talk about that all day.
Right,
like,
right.
Thundercats to me is anime. Like, I now just started being able to get into some of these. Like, I just started getting into like One Piece. Like, I'm now on like episode 400 of like One Piece.
I'm sorry.
No, and see, I hate when people do that. You know why I like that? I like One Piece because One Piece is still a story about pirates. So even if it's not a main story, the side quest is still cool because you're watching a group of pirates on a journey. And that's always interesting. Unlike Naruto with that boring ass shit all day, with Sasuke and the rest of these dudes, and they side missions just be like, yo, can y'all please get back to the main story? Like, I don't want to see this.
That may be because I think once you watch a lot of anime, you kind of like, and I'm not an anime supremacist in any way, because I'm, at least in regards to the people I know, I'm very much so casual in comparison to them. Like, I got a buddy that like him and his girl have watched like more anime than I could try to consume in my life if I started right now.
Exactly. They'd be like, have you checked out Tokyo Ghoul? Have you checked out Hunter x Hunter? I'm like, whoa.
And they be good, but it's like, bro, that's way too much. Yeah. It's too much.
Y'all gotta start me small. Start me with the ones that's like 4 seasons with like 20 episodes. And then let me gradually get to all of these. Cause I just started, not just started, but you know, I now watch My Hero Academia.
That's a good one for new people.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay, cool. I didn't watch it. Oh man, I didn't watch it. I'm caught up. Now I get to I can wait for the next season and be here with everybody. And my friend was just like, yeah, you know, where you at? I was like, well, I just finished season 5 where what's his face's dad is now #1. Like he took over All Might's spot. And they're like, bro, you know we on like season 7, right? And I'm like, I just sat here and pitched all this. Wait a minute. And then come to find out, you're not even done with season 5. You still got like 20 more episodes of that one. And I'm just like.
And that's not even counting like the manga spoilers or people that are like, the manga readers are like, hey, bro, just wait. You don't even know that's about to happen. I'm like, bro, I didn't even know.
Or the in-between movies I didn't miss. Like, I didn't realize that. So they was like, yeah, you missing like 4 movies out of those. I'm like.
I think that's an older anime thing though. Like back in the day, like for Naruto or Dragon Ball, they would have all those like random movies in between that wasn't really connected to the main story that like you didn't have to watch, but a lot of people watched. I feel like nowadays these studios are kind of rolling, like with JJK, they rolling out these movies in collaboration with the actual anime. Like we don't maximize this money. We don't get this bread.
Yeah, I think the only one that didn't do that was 7 Deadly Sins on Netflix. Like it tied into it, but it was like you don't have to watch this in order to watch the next season. Mm-hmm. Like you could just watch these and not have to worry about the movie. They're just kind of like an in between, like DBZ. But I don't know. Like I think I classify myself as a moderate nerd and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I have a love for things and stuff like that. But I was just like really trying to figure out like, am I really a nerd? Especially when you see other folks. Like even for yourself, like look at your stuff behind you. Like you got the lightsabers, you got the comics. Like I just started collecting this stuff. Like,
to be fair, a lot of these comics were stuff that I collected as a child or were gifted to me. Because I read them a lot when I was a kid. So I've told this story a little bit. I'll keep this brief. I grew up in a military town near Air Force Base. And on the Air Force Base, they had this cool thing to where when you got a good grade on your report card, you can bring in your report card and they give you like a free coupon book as a kid. And you can trade in the free magazine stuff for comic books as well. So every report card, I go get a new comic and for free and I just get that shit and read it. It will never be connected because I'd be getting it like 6 months apart from when the last one dropped. But I would like collect a bunch of those or like from the Scholastic Book Fair, stuff like that. And I just have it around at my mom's house. So I finally building up a setup. I put it all up there. I've had friends that have bought me like a Static Shock issue. My friend got me that for my birthday. I think when classifying nerddom, because it's a spectrum, I kind of look at it like being black. I ain't gonna hold you. Because there are people that are like, you maybe have a smidgen of black in you. You get the one drop rule, or maybe you like 100% like straight out of the motherland, like Nigerian. Or you could just be American. Because people are going, like, if you talk about nerd stuff, people are going to react to nerd stuff the same way, regardless of how much it is. Plus, with somebody like you know a lot about the comic accurate Batman stuff. You know a lot about the way movies are shot. Because, nerddom is the spectrum. I will classify you as a nerd personally. If you don't, that's fine. But I will give you the time. I give it up to you.
Yeah, but I think the way you put it is the reason why I think I question it. Because, like you said, nerddom is a spectrum, so it's just like, okay, am I one of those? Because like I know I'm a huge movie buff, like I love watching movies, but does that make me a nerd? I love learning about these things and go and read these things that I need to read, and it's just like, does that classify me as a nerd? Or maybe I just feel like because of the particular things I do like, I don't know if they always associate that with nerd. Like I love wrestling. but you never hear like people being a nerd of wrestling.
I have a friend like that. Which we're going to Bad Blood in Atlanta like on the 5th. So
nice.
I'm geek. It's my first like actual WWE event. I've been like a casual for a long. I'm getting back into it now. My buddy's like hardcore. I've been following it since we were in like diapers, damn near. He's been locked in. But I would say so. I don't think nerddom is exclusive to superheroes or anime. I think they're the most prevalent ones now because of the media that they've been held in with like the MCU movies, DC cartoons, and anime right now. Like, I love Greek mythology. I love learning about different mythologies of different cultures. I think that's nerdy as hell.
Yeah, same.
Movie buffs like you, like if you know how a movie's shot, about script writing, if you pay attention to the little things like the atmospheric tone of a movie, the soundtrack, stuff that makes them, that's nerdy as hell to me.
That maybe would have got me into my nerdom then. I remember I always used to watch the behind the scenes of DVDs. Like I couldn't wait to get a DVD and go look at the special features.
I'm a horror fan too, so I love seeing like the way the like certain effects were put together with practical effects or like kills. Like, man, they made her head fly across the room. How did that happen?
Yeah. It's like, yo, how they got that guy to look like that? It's like, whoa, it was like that. Same thing with like Greek mythology, like you said, like that like. That's where I got the name for my business from. Like most people know WP Media, but where everything is housed is called Memnon LLC. So yeah, and so if you are a Greek, a Greek head, you know who Memnon is, and so it's just like, that's one of my favorite things to just always look into and stuff. I'm actually writing like a whole like book based off of that character.
That's fire. I had a couple friends that are like hesitant. One of my mentors in general, she's like, well, I'm not a nerd for real, but I'm like, Shawty, you watch some anime, you know all about tech stuff, you talk about, she's like, well, I'm not like you. I'm like, well, what's me? I know I'm in depth because I've been in it since childhood, but like, Shawty, you in the closet, come out the closet to us. Come home, my sister, come home.
I got a homegirl that's similar just like that. She always be like, you such a nerd. I'm like, and what are you? Like, we just sat here for an hour and a half talking about Harry Potter. Like, what do you think you are? You're a nerd. Like, don't do that.
You're a weird guy with a cauldron and a broom knowing all the incantations and the spells, but I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. You the one to ask me about did I finish My Hero Academia because you just finished it. It's like, you're a nerd. Don't do that. Just because you cute, don't you try to act like you not one and make fun of me for it.
I'm curious. I know because I'm friends with a lot of older nerds, and they've had that whole situation where they grew up and being a nerd wasn't a welcoming thing. Depending on how old you were, it was a thing that got you beat up, like physically. And maybe a little bit of people further in the future was just getting made fun of. Did you have any of those issues growing up where people were like kind of check you, or if they saw you being nerdy, like reading a book on something and they were like, oh, you nerd ass nigga? Like, did you ever have that issue growing up?
Nah, I've been a giant all my life, so I didn't really
see. Yeah,
I didn't have to deal with that. I had to deal with trying to get checked for being a big guy because kind of like prison rules. If I take him out, then
right.
Leave me alone. It was just one of those things. But no, like I think as long as you have like particular things you did, nobody really questioned you and stuff. So like most of the time, like if I got roasted about anything, it'd either be like my size or like my glasses and stuff like that. But it'd be just like that type of stuff. You're like, oh, look at you out there playing cards. No, y'all out here playing the same shit I'm playing. So don't sit here and act like that. Yeah. So it's just, but then too, it's just like I don't think most folks like do you. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yo, and then I think too, like I always had like I always try to pride myself on saying I had a good thing of common sense. So even like you said, like with the nerd stuff, I always saw things a little bit differently growing up. So if somebody did try to check me like that, of just like, oh, look at you doing this nerd stuff. I'm like, don't you watch football? And like, yeah, and there ain't no nerd stuff. I'm like, okay, how many rushing yards does this quarterback get a year? Blah 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 this. Okay, how many touchdowns has he scored? How many percentages of this has he done? You know that's math, right? You're a nerd. You are a math nerd because you know all of that.
Sports people that are into sports really heavily are probably the biggest nerds on the planet. For the factor that you not only memorize all these numbers, these conversion rates, these field goal percentages, but you also know the lore on players. Like, yeah, well, he don't rock with him because when he played in Charlotte, he ran him over like this, and Kobe did that. I'm like, bro, you know this man's lore back to when he was in high school, memorized off the top of your head.
This man was scoring X amount of points back in 1983, and then back when he got to 94 with the Bulls, he was scoring this. I'm like, but I'm the nerd.
He had a flu because he had got this pizza that was like had him sick for real. And he really wasn't sweating for you. Saw this stuff. Like I'm like, wow, this is insane. Y'all are bigger nerds than actual nerds.
It's like name me every coach that the Boston Patriots had. Be like, well, they started out with this one, this one. That. You're a nerd. You're a sports nerd. Don't give me that.
And the funny thing I've noticed, most nerds are also into sports. Like I love NBA basketball with a passion. I am a basketball nigga, and I know a lot of dudes who are like they love sports. But they're into the NBA or the NFL, or maybe some others like fighting sport or a combat sport.
I am not, and I piss off all of my friends every time I talk about sports because I deliberately have this thing that I know pisses off sports people so much.
Were you one of those kids in high school where it's like you just 6'3" and the coach is like, "Hey, bro, come play." You like, "Nah,
no,
man,
I'm playing."
Cool. Oh, you play? Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I was center and I was a defensive lineman. Like I played the sport. It's just not entertaining to watch to me. Like I don't want to sit here and watch it all day. Like I like them. Yeah, so it was just like I always make fun of it. I'm like now, because people be like, "Yeah, man, I'm finna go to the LA Chargers game," and I'm like, "Oh, dope! Is LeBron playing tonight?" And they're like,
"Oh, you one of them? Oh no!"
I'm like, now tell me, how many touchdowns, how many slam dunks at the goalpost can they get in a football game? Who's going to the NFL Finals this year? And which team is Russell Westbrook on again? They be, hey, yo, when I tell you that vein, see even your face right now, like, please stop.
It's funny because I'm like, I know you trolling because you played the sport, so you know what it is. You play.
I be trolling my ass off with that.
It'd be, you know what's funny? It's cute when your girl do it. It's like, hey, babe, what's going on here? It's like, see, I'll show you what it is. When it's a nigga, it's like, why don't you know this, nigga? You should know. Like, it's part of your black card of a black man. Like, you got to know this shit.
And that's the reason why I troll it, because it's like, yo, it's particular things that just, and again, too, I keep up with all of it. Like, I know what's going on because, like, one of my football team is the Las Vegas Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But that's just because, like, that was my dad's favorite team. So, like, is his favorite team, is his favorite team. And so, you know, that's just inherited and whatnot. But it was, like, always feeling like being forced to watch that, and then growing up with a lot of people that would not necessarily indulge your stuff. So it's like, oh man, I ain't watching that fake stuff like wrestling. Oh, that's how it is? Oh, okay. So why is football real? Man, because you see this, I'm like, aren't they running a play that was already predetermined before they came out here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, but you can't determine the winner. How do you know if you're playing from a determined script?
The crazy thing is, they'll talk about like refs, like rigging stuff, or some things being rigged, or like balls being deflated. Like, hey man.
I was like, so what's the difference between that and wrestling?
So I'm curious. So is wrestling like your main thing? What is your go-to nerd thing that gives you comfort? Is it wrestling right now?
Probably wrestling, because I also used to wrestle too.
Oh man, after my own heart. Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming you were 285, right? Heavyweight.
Oh yeah. I actually skipped my high school prom to go fight for the SCW Texas title.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Damn, bro.
I wrestled for like 3 years.
You were better than me. Yeah, I got 1 year in, and granted, I was an area champ, and I got to state. Got my ass kicked at state because it was my first year. But
you talking about collegiate wrestling?
Oh no, this is high school. This is college. It was high school.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about like WWE style. Like,
oh shit, you were for real? Yeah, oh, that's crazy.
Like intro, walk down the ramp, like get in the ring, like train with some of Booker T's guys. Like I even got a chance to like practice wrestle with Jake the Snake when he came to like our show and stuff like that. Like
that's fire.
That type of wrestling. Yeah.
So are you still continuing to try to like do that, or is it just something you just kind of let go?
I actually went to college, so that's why I had to stop doing it. But art school. I've thought about getting back into it. I have been like training, like just, like weightlifting and bodybuilding, just certain things I have to get like situated first body wise. But I would like to make a return there. Like I want to do one WrestleMania. Like I want to say I got to be in one WrestleMania and did an actual match. I'm not even asking for a solo match. Like, you can put me in a tag team with three of the other ones. I just want to be able to say, I walk down that ramp when you go look at the WWE network or wherever it's going to be at. When I do it, it's like, hey, go to WrestleMania such and such. And you got to see Will Pharaoh in the ring as a part of night 1 or night 2. Like, that is my ultimate goal.
So I think this ties in really, really well then. How are you feeling about how the WWE right now is tying, well, the current state of it. Two, obviously there's like so much more black representation in it. There's a lot more black people in it that are champions now, succeeding, doing well, getting moments. And even further, nerdy as hell. You got the New Day coming out in Power Ranger outfits. You have Jade Cargill coming out cosplaying with her. Like, a lot of the wrestlers' uniforms now are like, in some instances, like cosplays of their favorite things that they're into, and you're starting to see that a lot more. How are you like perceiving that? Did that impact you at all? Were you noticing that?
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. Like him, like you said, those Johnny Gargano, Zelina Vega, all of them, even just not from superheroes, like anime. And I love seeing it because, again, even something you brought up, like living in an era where some people felt like they couldn't let people know that they were a nerd or let people know that they were reading comic books. Like, to be in a generation now where that's not a thing. That's nothing you have to be ashamed of. Like, you can be proud of that, and you can also profit from it too. I think it's just amazing to see, and especially like when you get to see someone that looks like us being able to just be authentically them, not have to play a character. I mean, they're playing a character, but like not have to play someone so far fetched and so far from them that they can't implement some of the things that make them who they are into their character. So I just think it's cool to just see people being able to be themselves, especially that look like us.
Right. Again, I'm jumping all over the place, but this is another like question that these are things. Again, I wanted to pick your brain on some stuff, and these are things that I've thought about for myself for a minute, but I've never got to bounce these questions off of people.
Yeah.
You're seeing anime in particular explosive rise in the West. Like, it was around for the longest time here, but in the last like 5 years ish, it's been risen to a certain level of like popularity and mainstream consumption that's ungodly. Personally, part of my like looking at the world, I've noticed black people, we push culture. We do that. That's what we do. We make things hot. We make things popular. Our music, our style, everything we do is usually everywhere around the world. I've noticed that, at least in my personal opinion, we were the main catalyst for anime being so mainstream in the West. I've seen copious amounts of rappers have anime bars in their music. I've seen copious amounts of rappers have imagery from anime or nerd stuff where you're looking to do like MF Doom or even the Wu-Tang Clan. And I'm just seeing so many people, like, you saw a lot of that art where dudes will redraw Goku with like a Bape t-shirt or like give Vegeta a fade. And this is something I've been seeing for a long time in the community. How much do you feel like black people had to do, if any, with the mainstream boom of anime in the West? At least in America in particular, but I mean everywhere else too in regards to the western part of the country or west part of the world, but America specifically.
I mean, sure, you'd have to say it's up there. Like, if again, like I'm not fully on the statistic of it, but I'm like, black people are like the biggest consumers in America. So whatever it is that's popping, you can tell it's a large consumption from folks like ourselves. So it's like, as much as we see like people do like the cosplay stuff. So, I can't necessarily say, okay, black people, got that on the rise.
Right.
Like, I've been seeing that, but it's like, I've seen it more integrated through our culture when it comes to this stuff. So like you said, from the sneakers to the fashion to the music to even some of the things that's being said in there, some of the references that's made within animes that latch on and attach to us. Like, I think we've had like a big part in that way, at least like here in the western side of the world, and being able to implement that into different things, like even to Aaron Magruder show like the Boondocks, like to see it from a comic strip on a newspaper, but then changing it when it went to TV to an anime styled show. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that too. Like, like Boondocks is an anime. Like, as much as y'all want to say it, like Boondocks meets every criteria of what an anime should be. I think it falls into what the Shogun. I think that's what it is when it's like centered around like a boy.
Shonen.
Shonen.
Mm-hmm.
It has all the elements there. So I think it's just like, again, once we start getting attached to it and learning the basis of it, which we know it's just like, again, it's telling a dope story with certain criteria through an animated side, like it just blew up and everybody loves to mimic us more than anyone else. So I'd say it's a big part. Now, I don't know the percentage of it, but I would definitely say, like, if you're going to be giving an award out for blowing up anime in the Western, you better make sure the Black culture get their award for it.
Yeah, bro. There are people that may feel differently, and obviously they will be loud when I clip all the stuff. They're gonna feel their type of way about it very loudly in a certain way. But yeah, bro, I don't see country music or too many pop artists like incorporate anime and not just their music, but their imagery and how they operate, or even talk about it publicly like that. But yeah, that's just a thought I had on regards to that. And probably the last thing we'll get on because we've been there for an hour. I don't want to hold you all night. I'm gonna let you get back on your game. But obviously, you're a big comic book fan, superhero fan. We have seen for a while now the DCEU have the, let's just say, lackluster string of films and projects. There have been some bright spots in there with the Batman, with something like the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, stuff like that. But obviously now there is a new head of leadership in regards to the organization of the stuff going forward in James Gunn. And he's announced a lot of different projects that he's planning to release that's going to be a part of not just his Gods and Monsters storyline, but a part of like the Elseworld stuff they're doing with animated stuff for shows, games, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of stuff coming. One, what is your confidence level going into James Gunn's DCEU? And is there a project you're excited for that's coming out?
Oh yeah. I am more excited just because I saw what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's what makes me have a big level of confidence in him. Not many people knew who Guardians of the Galaxy was. It's not the most popular comic book out of all of them in Marvel. So to be able to take that story, to be able to take that band of misfits, and in my opinion, not saying it for everyone, but in my opinion, making it one of the top projects in the MCU, I think just bodes very well for what he'll do as a person that enjoys comics. Like, you can tell this is a fan that's making this. This is a creative, imaginative fan that made this stuff happen. And then even seeing it move over to Peacemaker, like, again, another person where it's like, I like comics, but I'm like, I didn't know who the hell Peacemaker was. And then to see that stupid helmet on his head, I'm like, okay, y'all making this, but then to see it being brought to life the way it was, even the same thing with the Suicide Squad, to go such a different contrast of like him blending in the old school version of comics and then still being, it's like he took 3 generations and made it into that. When I watched Suicide Squad, the old school colors of like the 50s DC, then to jump to like the 80s and 90s where we get a little bit dark, and even now to the modern era of it with technology and everything. Like, to see that blended in and work so well, like in the Suicide Squad, it makes me very confident. And if he just keeps being able to have fun with it, I think he'll be able to do something so wonderful to where it's like you don't even have to do the same thing like Marvel, where it's like, okay, we want to lead to the Justice League, and it's like, not necessarily. You don't need to like immediately jump to the Justice League. You can just make a whole bunch of dope stuff, and then it's like, okay, we're out here. Let's see where we go. So I'm very confident in James Gunn when it comes to the DCU now. What I'm looking forward to is Batman, of course, the Brave and the Bold. Definitely want to see like where he's gonna go with that. I'm very interested in Supergirl, and especially the one that he's going off of, because he's going off of the one where she lived on the meteor for all those years. So I'm very interested to see like how that's portrayed and how that's brought about. I think the biggest one that I'm excited for, though, And this goes back, I guess too. The more that I talk about it and start thinking about it, I guess like I've been a nerd. I'm so excited for Swamp Thing, and the fact that
Really?
and the fact that he's making Swamp Thing a horror film, I cannot wait. I was a huge Swamp Thing fan when I was a kid. I don't know why I latched on to Swamp Thing, but I love it. I loved when the show came out on CW, and I was so bummed when they canceled it. Like they canceled it before it even came out, and I was like, "Why did this get canceled?"
I don't think I've ever heard anyone on this planet utter the words, I was a huge Swamp Thing fan growing up. But I understand. Because he's cool as fuck. Especially after seeing like Man Thing in the MCU and Werewolf by Night, I'm like, yeah, Swamp Thing can be hard. They can make Swamp Thing work.
If you like Poison Ivy, you should like Swamp Thing. That's them two are the same people. I don't care what nobody says. He's just a guy, she's a girl. And he's one of the most powerful superheroes in DC.
I'm excited. For me, I'm a Lantern guy. I'm a Jon Stewart guy. I'm ready for this Lantern show. I need this to be great. I need it to be good.
I think it is the fact that they're have you ever watched True Detective?
I have not.
Go watch True Detective. If you watch True Detective, you're going to get even more excited about Lanterns because that's how they're going to shoot the Lantern Corps. It's going to be shot like True Detective. And True Detective is so good because it's like an anthology. So every season is a different perspective from somebody else, kind of like how Fargo is or American Horror Story. So it's like it's had Mahershala Ali in it. I think the latest one had like Jodie Foster in it. Like it is such a good, compelling like detective story that the fact that they're adapting that to the Lantern Corps as being universal detectives, bro, I just know that's gonna go off.
It's gonna be gas. I can't wait for it. Now, CG wise, I'm like, all right, how y'all gonna make this budget work? Because there's gonna be a lot of CGI in this thing.
You know what though? Yes and no. Because I actually sat here and I talked to a friend of mine about that. So, depending on how you want to do it, it doesn't necessarily have to be so CGI based. Because the most work that you're doing with CGI would be the ring and, manipulating stuff to come through the ring. That doesn't take as much. And I think if you have something like to work, because I think the first season is supposed to focus on Hal and Jon Stewart. And both of them working together. So if you're on here to protect Earth and you're trying to solve these mysteries and stuff like that, you don't have to go so heavy on it, and it can still be very gritty and then still be able to use those powers.
Yeah, it won't be like we don't have to worry about Hal making a whole literal rocket ship or Cal making a mech. I see your point there.
Yeah. But you can have even one of those scenes where it might be something where it's like, okay, we got to go big
right
for us to do this. But like for the necessary stuff, like if you think about it, like most of the time, like Hal is always making like a minigun, a hand, a mitt or something like that, or fixing like a railroad track to help out and stuff.
But John's just like guns, which I hope they do because he's an architect in this like comics. I'm like, okay, let's dive more into his architect stuff with that and not just make him make guns. Mm-hmm. But I feel you. Yeah. Before we take off though, before I let you go, could you tell people where they can find you, what platform, anything you have coming on?
Oh yeah, you can find me at Will Pharaoh, Pharaoh on all socials: Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok. All of the stuff. You can also make sure you follow my YouTube channel as well as my Straight Out of a Comic Book YouTube and socials. Everything is Straight Out of a Comic Book on all socials. I'm normally on Women's Wrestling Talk Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as long as a watch along on Tuesdays. And so I also stream those on my Twitch channel and my YouTube as well. And then on Wednesdays, I also have Trail Championship Wrestling, where I've taken WWE's 2K24 Wrestling Universe and have created my own promotion called Trail Championship Wrestling. So all custom characters, we sit there, we commentate the matches, even got a pay-per-view coming up for the show itself. So I always have that on Wednesdays around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on the West Coast, excuse me. So you can always check that out. And then Straight Out of a Comic Book, always dropping the full episodes on Friday, and then other episodes come out throughout the week and stuff too. Starting to chop those up and give it a new format just to produce more content.
Yes, man. Again, I love what you're doing, and again, I want to reiterate this. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. I've held in the excitement for a lot, but I don't think you understand how dope it was. When I seen that follow, I'm like, Will Pharaoh. I was like, what the fuck?
I
I was
have
like,
to remember that, bro. I have to try to like remember that when it comes to that with a lot of people, because people will say that and I'm just like, me? Like, okay, you
yeah,
excited?
bro.
Like, all right, yeah. Then I just have to be reminded. So I do appreciate that, though. It means
No
more to
problem,
me.
bro. I'm a fan before anything else, and I really want to appreciate you for taking your time out of your day to give me an hour and some change of your time.
Oh yeah, of course, man. Was glad to
Yeah,
be here,
man.
man. This is a dope show. And you do
Appreciate it,
great
dog.
work, man. Keep doing your thing, bro. Like I like your form. I like your format. Like even though you said like you were jumping everywhere, it really didn't feel like that. It felt like, yo, he could say that, but he had all of this ready to go.
I appreciate that, man. Y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of, I guess, I don't know what I'm called, the living room session or something like that. 'Cause I don't stream like that as far as these go, but I love having conversations with dope people. So again, thank you so much for coming on. This has been Captain Diesel's Dojo, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.